So welcome to the September 27th regular meeting of Walpole Select Board. It's after 7 o'clock, the time of our posted meeting, so I call the meeting to order. Let us all stand and pledge the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so our first order of business is a public hearing for Estate on Main LLC DBA Avenir for alteration of licensed premises at 1601 Main Street. Could I have a motion to open a public hearing, please?
Motion to open the public hearing.
Seconded.
Motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
500. We're now in a public hearing. So, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Bill O'Connell, and we appreciate your time this evening. I'm here. I have the pleasure to represent Estate on Main LLC. This is an application for a permanent alteration of their liquor license for an outdoor seating area. And with me tonight, I have Amy Sapphire, who is involved in the business. Her husband, Jonathan Sapphire, he's a principal. Unfortunately, he's in Florida, batting down the hatches for the impending hurricane, so he can't be here. He couldn't be here this evening. I also have the pleasure of having Jonathan's parents here, Roberta and Jerry Sapphire, who have been in the business for years. They own and operate. They have owned and operated a facility in Sharon, as well as East Bridgewater. They've been in the business, and they're wonderful, wonderful folks. So. Again, our request this evening is a request for the alteration of the licensed premises. They currently have an all-alcohol beverage license, and just by way of background, Avenir Banquet and Conference Facility has been owned and operated since 2018. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to go in there. They've done a wonderful job. They host weddings and functions, and again, they've been in the business. Sapphire Estates in Sharon, the Villa in East Bridgewater. And currently they have the indoor license, which includes 372 for the dining room, 81 for a function room, a total of 453. And we're requesting a permanent alteration to include a seating area outside. They have a ton of room out back. And what they'd like to do is just really host a cocktail hour during the weddings. Folks will come in, they'll have their pictures taken outside, they may have a ceremony taken outside. They're just looking for 45 minutes. They'll have a temporary bar, portable bar, and typically the times for the weddings are in the afternoon. They're not going to be hosting an outdoor cocktail hour in the evening. As far as music goes, they might have just background music, and again, it would be. What we're looking for is up to 170 seating, 170 seats. There'll be a number of tables. There'll be other occupants that will be out there. But it's a great. They've done a great job. It will really enhance their business. As you can imagine, having that license to have something outside would really, really increase the venue and the opportunities for the venue. So. They want to continue to be a good neighbor. If there are any concerns with any of the neighbors, obviously, they'd like to address those concerns. And again, Jonathan can't be here this evening, but certainly they're willing to work with any neighbors if any neighbors have concerns. So for those reasons, I'm respectfully requesting that you grant the alteration of the license. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Bill. Before I go to the board, is there anybody here from the public who would like to speak on this? Yes, please come to the mic and tell us who you are, and we'll take your comment.
Sure.
Okay.
My name is David Amaral, 3 Cypress Lane. I'm a direct abutter to the rear of Avenir. Mrs. Sapphire, I've met John personally as a result of a noise complaint at the beginning of the summer. This was not something that happened repetitively, however, it did happen. And I understand they often have been allowing for the ceremony, in most cases it's weddings, the ceremony to take place outdoors, and maybe there's some very soft accompanying music that goes along with it. No complaints from me. However, on one occasion, I guess there was a DJ that was out there, and it really got out of hand. On the positive side, I called, and I heard from John almost immediately. So suffice to say that he's a professional, that they care very much about the property. It shows that very much. But we do have to remember that it's an area that's zoned residential. That's huge. For homeowners that have purchased their homes on Cypress, Clarkson, 1A, and now Echo Lane, we know that the nature of the business for years has been a grandfathered-in business, and that all of the functions and any potential noise was taking place indoors. And it was not a problem. It's not a problem. So I understand that their desire to take advantage of some outdoor aspect, it could be quite enjoyable. I get that. Before I get into anything else, would you mind if I shared some documents?
No, go right ahead, please.
With the board.
Yeah, thank you.
I would like these back. And simply, it is, shall I start here?
No, it's fine. You can-
Very good,
yeah.
okay. So simply, it is us dealing with Raphael's in the past, and I'm not gonna get into a lot of history with you folks about it. However, that is a sheet of, I don't know, 40 signatures of homeowners in the area who were concerned, okay? This, and I don't expect you to read it, guys, however, it is multiple notices of meetings, trying to get change, et cetera, through the board. And in this case, Raphael's, they asked to have the deck built out in the rear. It was 100 feet long, it was 20 feet deep, really could have accommodated a lot of people. However, the conditions at the beginning of this process were such that there was not supposed to be any music outside at all. And what happened was, a month or so went by, and before you know it, there was music out there. We had some of their promo materials on the web showed musicians out there. I gotta thank you.
No, I'm like,
At any rate, the board let's see, I think they instituted reviews to try to keep things in check, and in the end, Raphael's themselves decided, hey, let's just close the deck in. And, had they kept things civilized on the rear deck, I don't.
Could I just ask you to go to the mic?
Maybe
here?
they would never have decided to spend that money and close the thing in. But the fact remains, residential area.
So, I'm having a little trouble. Are you for or against the proposal?
I am a pro-business person.
Yeah.
I'm in business myself.
For this proposal?
But for this proposal, I think we should have something that is a nod to the residents, as far as, I don't know if it's the ability to have reviews put on this. I don't know if it could be once a year, we get to have a review and maybe see what's been going on. Have there been any complaints? Is it getting out of hand? The attorney, I'm sorry, sir, I don't know.
Bill O'Connell.
Bill,
Yeah.
Bill was mentioning the amount of time that perhaps these cocktail hours could take place. And just think about it, in the summertime, if it's a 4:30 or a 5 o'clock ceremony outdoors, sundown is 8:30, a long stretch with 170 potentially outside drinking, and I would like to think that the board could help us out with some way to keep it from getting out of hand.
So I'm quite sure we can do that. And in fact, I would suggest that we have a we have a process, you know, that exists for complaints. Sounds like you've even used the process before. And that process does entail, if we have to, pulling in the people who run the venue. And if, you know, really worst case to, you know, tell them they have to stop doing that. So I think we can work around that without having into, say, quarterly reviews or any of that kind of stuff. I think we just need to say, look, you know, if there's an issue, you just would bring it forward to us and we would look into it, and I can assure you we would do that. So, Bill, is there anything that you want to address on this particular point before, I know we have another person who wants to speak. Come to the mic.
Thanks.
Bill.
No, Mr. Mayor, we understand your concerns, and again, my understanding was, we don't know what happened with Raphael's, but I think the back porch has been closed, so.
I'm not saying you're Raphael at all.
Yeah, but Jonathan obviously wants to.
Bill, just,
Yeah,
so,
sure.
it's just
Yeah,
because
thank you,
of
Mr.
the
Chairman.
TV, you know.
So Jonathan really wants to maintain a good relationship with the neighbors, so
Yeah.
and again, he wants to, you know, it's a cocktail hour, so it's not gonna be any more than 45 minutes. We understand your concerns. We'd be happy to work with you and the neighbors and whatever the board deems necessary. And again, Jonathan, if there is a complaint, he wants to address it immediately. So we're hoping that we can work with you and work with any other neighbors that have concerns.
The music is, you know, is something that it's so easy for it to get out of hand, it's not fun. And
So-
all it takes is a DJ who's maybe not being supervised as closely as they should be, and all of a sudden, you know, you're out on your rear deck trying to relax, and you're listening to something that you don't really want to hear, or should be hearing, because it's residential.
So I'm very sensitive to these kinds of situations. What I've heard so far from Bill as representing the proponents of the proposal is that it's going to be very low-level music and so forth. I think the key thing is that, Bill, and to your clients, we would expect you to abide by, you know, what we're agreeing to here, which is very low music, and in the event that we do start getting complaints, we would look into that and may ask you to stop doing whatever you're doing.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, I think Amy Sapphire can speak, if she
That's
can,
okay.
to the
Sure,
music.
please do.
I do want to just speak to a couple of your points, because I agree with you.
Sure, sure.
But, so the one time that DJ was completely against our policy, and they've never been back. So this is our third venue. They're all in somewhat residential neighborhoods. We have an outdoor tent with residents. We use decibel readers. The cocktail hour is all background music. There's not dancing, and it's strictly a 45-minute after the ceremony ask. It's not an event outside, very limited. I mean, you've been to cocktail hours. You're in the event business, I think, right?
Yes.
Somewhat, yeah.
Audio production.
Yeah, okay. So very much background. A lot of the time it's like a jazz musician or a harpist, but that's really the extent of it.
And
So,
what do you think the hours of operation are?
you know, the ceremonies range, depending on the time of year, anywhere from starting, which is very early, which would be 4:30. We're always done before dark because they can't be out there. So whenever sundown is when they go in. So, you know, if sundown's at, say, 8:30 at the latest, the ceremony's usually at 6:30, maybe till 7, cocktail hour till 7:45, and then we bring them in. So we say cocktail hour, but it's truly 45 minutes because it takes us 15 minutes to get them from one room to the other. So
So the 170 would be part of the total that you could put inside. It's not 170 on top of,
100%.
right?
It's
Okay.
whatever the inside, so they arrive, assuming it's good weather, the ceremony's outside in the ceremony area, and then they would just walk to the grass right next to it for the cocktail hour, and then they go inside for the event.
Okay. So would you be willing to put some kind of time bounds on it that's maybe even using sunset as, you know, the time bound?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that definitely, Jonathan gets more into the operations of the event, but I know that he would work with,
Perhaps that would help if
Whatever
we did
means.
something like that.
we would never be outside after dark.
I understand.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like to have some of these other folks, if they like, to come up there, just.
Yeah,
their names as
absolutely,
well.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I appreciate your.
Yeah.
your
Can I ask a quick question, Mr. Chairman?
Certainly, go ahead, Glenn.
Would
On
you
the,
guys, like-
yeah, we'll give this back to you. On the subject of the, I was just curious if there's lighting on the patio. Do you have lighting set up, or do you have any plans to add lighting out there?
Well, it won't be at dark. Once it's dark, they go in.
So, but if there is no lighting, then, I mean, you're telling us there was nothing after dark, but if there's no lighting, then nobody wants to be in a pitch black area anyways. I was just curious, so there is no lighting, and there's no plans for lighting?
We have
Yeah.
some, like, uplighting on the trees, a little bit
Sure,
of landscape,
yeah.
but it is not set up for a party outside
Right.
at night.
That was, wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But is there going to be any construction that would affect the wetlands?
No, we're not, this is all temporary. It's just a little bit of lounge furniture, table and chairs on the grass strip. But you're familiar, you know the ceremony
Directly
space. To the
behind.
right, yeah. And then underneath the building, we were gonna put in potentially just a temporary bar. You know, clean up under the building, put in that temporary bar, just for some covering. And that was the extent of it. So no permanent installations whatsoever outside.
So I want to go to the next resident and going forward, because we've had a little bit of conversation that may not be being picked up for the television. So going forward, I'm just going to ask everybody to come to the mic. We did it a couple times, and we're not really doing it. So anyway, thank you for being here. Please introduce yourself and,
Hi, I'm Steve. I'm a resident of Clarkson Drive.
hi, Steve.
I came here this evening because there's been a pattern over the past summer where there's been a lot of events. I'm really glad that they're doing well down there, I have to say that. But there's been a pattern over this past summer in particular where there's been more and more events that are getting louder and louder. There was one a couple of Thursdays ago that began 4:30, 5 o'clock. Where I live at Clarkson Drive, I'm at the crest of the hill, and there's nothing but woods. And you think the woods would be a buffer to maybe muffle some of that sound, but it's not. It literally sounded like they were playing in my backyard. I have a screen porch, I was out in the screen porch, and it sounded like they were literally in my yard. Like I said, I'm not opposed to, I'm glad that they have the outdoor weddings and stuff, but my concern is if they set up 170 tables outside, some of this music is gonna be loud. I wouldn't have any problem with, like she said, maybe some light music with some harps and maybe a guitar player. I think that's more than reasonable, but at its face, I have to oppose this project just because of the sound that we've been hearing. It's very disturbing.
Okay.
That's about all I have to say.
Bill,
on that.
any, I don't want to get into redundant discussion here, but anything new you wanted to add?
No, we just want to make sure that we can work with the neighbors, and that, you know, it's, again, this is just for the outside, and a temporary was granted in May. So it's my understanding, you guys haven't used it, right? You haven't used it, so really, this is just as part of COVID, we were able to just grant it.
Right.
Obtain a temporary, building inspector come out, Board of Health come out. We had met with them, and then I spoke with them again. So, again, we understand your concerns, we want to work with you, and again, we'll be, you know, I can represent that Jonathan and Amy will be as responsive. If you have concerns, like Mr. Emerald, I would hope that, you know, you could contact Jonathan, and those concerns can be addressed immediately. So-
You know, I had a question too regarding notice to abutters. Is there a distance, a measurement distance by which people actually get notified? I just happened to see this in the notice in that free paper that comes. Otherwise, I wouldn't have heard about this at all. I did hear that the first couple of houses on Clarkson Drive did get notified by mail. 500 feet?
500
Yeah.
feet. Okay.
That's the stipulations of the
Okay.
law.
I had a feeling that was the case. Like I said, I just happened to notice because it was in that newspaper. Otherwise, I would not even have heard about this, but that's all I have to say.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the feedback, and we're going to consider that. Anyone else who would like to speak? Sure, come right up, please.
Hi, good evening. Jim Grady, 8 Cypress Lane. I've been there about 6 years, and we've thoroughly enjoyed our time there. We moved from West Street in Walpole, which was a very busy street, to Cypress Lane because of the serenity there. We have a farmer's porch on our house that has become somewhat of a gathering spot in the afternoon for, you know, adults and kids alike, very quiet, enjoy the time together for the community. And obviously, my wife and I are concerned that events like this on a consistent basis will sort of disrupt that. I too, like my neighbors, have been to events in the newly renovated facility. I think it's great. congratulations on that. But we're really concerned about the noise. And I haven't seen anything about any type of attenuation problem or system, extended fences, something to mitigate some of that sound. As it stands today, we will hear noise coming from that, and I know that it's not allowed, but there will be people that congregate in the parking lot before or after an event, and you can hear it. And my concern, and I guess our concern, is that if there's even though it is a temporary structure, that it would look pretty formal to wedding goers or people that are attending events there, that if someone were to, hey, I want to smoke a cigarette, or some gentlemen want to smoke cigars, that they would go outside with their drinks at all hours of the event, and it wouldn't be policed in any way by the facility or the staff members there who are off doing all their other things. So I would like assurances, or maybe there's even something that can pre-agreed upon, that if there were violations of this policy, there would be agreement with ownership that they would shut this, they would shut this down. If there's a certain amount of violations, or if there's a certain amount of complaints, or if the hours are extended beyond, because, Mr. Amaral, my neighbor, and other neighbors, we shouldn't have to be calling the owner, even if they are, accommodating to the request, and they shut the music down or move everyone inside. That shouldn't be our responsibility. That should be on the responsibility of the people that are seeking the variance and that own the facility.
I agree with you, and, this is, being a good neighbor, they need to be good neighbors, so. Bill, I come up, any reaction to that?
Again, Mr. Chairman, through you, we understand your concerns. I think there probably is a mechanism through the building inspector's office, but again, we'd like to address any concerns if they do emerge, that the owner would like to address them up front. Again, this is just for the outdoor, for the outside. It's a limited amount of time. I think Amy spoke about the music, so we understand if you have overall concerns, which it doesn't seem to be for what we're requesting. So certainly we could try to work, they want to be good neighbors, they'll work with you for any concerns that you have, but this is really just for the outdoor for a limited amount of time. Amy had made representation concerning the music, so, but again, I think there is a vehicle probably through the building inspector's office if the abutters did have concerns, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And I know that you mentioned that a couple of the other facilities that there is a decibel level. Just curious if there's going to be any acoustical testing or have a sound engineer that does some testing within the neighborhood.
I'm not sure, through you, Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure it's necessary. Again, you indicated it's going to be soft background music for 45 minutes. So we're hoping, we weren't planning on it. We don't think it's necessary, but again, we understand your concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Yeah, please come up.
Hi.
Hi.
My name's Scott Rose. I live on Clarkson Drive. My question is you have some other facilities. Do you have any issues similar to this where you have outdoor entertainment and there's noise issues? Is there anything that can be used to, just as a fallback or a fail-safe, to insulate us from that? Like on 128, when they've done the expressway over, they've put the fence up that's supposed to help the noise levels. I'm not saying, I don't know how much it is, or if there's, like the natural barrier we have now is gonna literally fall apart within a month. All the brush. Of course, that's not gonna be much outdoor now, but is there anything that can be done? Just, if we don't hear it, there's no problem at all, in my opinion. That's our only issue. Is there any way to prevent the noise from traveling?
Bill?
Again, Mr. Chairman, this is really it's just for the outdoor, so if there are concerns with the existing noise, I think that's a different issue that hopefully can be addressed through, if an abutter has an issue, through the building inspector. But again, we're hoping that we can address your concerns directly if Jonathan knows about it. So, again, this is just for the outdoor, which hasn't been in existence, so
Right.
we understand the concerns, but this is really for a limited request for the permanent alteration of the liquor license.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, there being none, I'm going to go to the board now. So comments and questions from the board. Mark, I'll start with you.
Sure. So Bill, it sounds like the owners are open to it, and I understand one of the gentlemen made a comment that it's not really your responsibility to have to call in if you hear too much noise, but it's the same in the neighborhood. If one of the neighbors is too loud, you could call the cops, but usually you call the person up and say, hey, things are too noisy in the backyard, blah, 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 and usually they'll take care of it. So I just want to make sure that the owners would be happy to give out the right cell phone number or the right internal number, that if there ever was an issue, somebody could call before they get too annoyed and just say, hey, it's bad today. Can you step outside? Are you? Sure.
Please come up. Yeah.
So we don't have many noise complaints and neighbor issues on any venues, but in the circumstance of yours, we got the call and John called you right away from his cell phone, which is accessible to anyone. We prefer them to call our cell phones than try and get in touch with the venue, because in the middle of an event, they don't hear the phone ring. So our cell phones are given to any neighbors that need to
Okay,
contact us.
that was really the question.
Yeah,
Would you be
and
comfortable giving cell phone numbers out
100%. Yep.
to all the people, within reason, so that if there was an issue, they could call you right at the.
100%. And then we just text the event manager and they handle whatever issue there is. There's also at every single event, a detail. So a security officer at every single event without exception. So we have an extra set of eyes, an extra person there to help with any issues that ever come up.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other question I had is, I haven't been there. When I've been to events there, I've always been on the inside.
Yeah.
What's outside? Are there arborvitaes, or is there a natural barrier in the back already, or?
There is a lot of natural barrier. I mean, it's not a sound wall. It's not a glass barrier. There's a very large hedge of arborvitaes. We probably are going to plant more trees if we get this, just to make it a more aesthetic, more private environment. It does look right into the back of the building, and if you've ever been in the back of the building underneath, it's not really pretty. So we have to do more upgrades to the outside and underneath. So we're always adding more landscaping, more barrier, trying to add more privacy, one for the neighbors and for the clients who want that, because we are on a main road with a big parking lot too, so it's
Okay.
always our goal.
I do like the idea of having some sort of an outdoor venue. I've been to a lot of weddings in the last couple of years, and there's always some sort of an outdoor element.
Yeah,
But I think the buffering is important.
yeah,
And I think a quick response line, a cell phone, is important, that if there's an issue, you nip it right away and don't let it drag on. Certainly don't let it drag on over multiple events. So.
never. We respond right away whenever we get a complaint.
Okay, that's it for me, Jim.
Thanks, Mark. Ben?
Yeah, so I would agree and try not to repeat what Mark has said here, but I think, as a board, we've heard these sorts of applications over the last couple of years, even pre-COVID, certainly more with COVID, when people want to be outside. And I think one thing that we've always tried to highlight is the fact that, the board is giving the permit and the building inspector will enforce it. And there's a lot of leeway and communication then that takes place. So I know there was a couple of places downtown that were having live music, expanding their outdoor spaces, and we gave them the permits and we said, hey, this isn't like a 3-strike you're out sort of a thing. There's no strikes. We get a complaint, then there's going to be issues that'll have to be resolved with the permit. So I think that's important that it's not just the permit gets stamped, filed, and nobody wants to hear any more about it. It's an ongoing process where people are communicating, hearing from abutters, and we move forward. So I think that that's something we've had success with, and that I'd be supportive of continuing.
Thanks, Ben. Glenn?
Right, you should. Just to piggyback on that, the goal here is to coexist, and everybody is in this room together. We're talking about this, the noise concerns, we're hearing them, the venue operators are hearing them. It sounds like they're saying all the right things. It sounds like they're not just saying it, they're gonna actually be responsive, both proactively and when the complaints arise. So I think that's the conversation that needs to happen. It's happening. I think we can coexist. I think this venue can go forward, hopefully, if the rest of the board agrees. With this outdoor sort of like soft background music. It doesn't sound like we're talking about a Boston nightclub here. We're talking about some weddings and hopefully upper class sort of like gatherings of people who are just trying to have a good time. So I think this can work, and it sounds like we're going in the right direction. So that's my comment.
Ally?
Thank you. I think for any business, having outdoor is really key in this day. It has changed that if you're in New England, you want to be outside in the nice weather. But I am very much listening to the abutters' comments. I'm pleased to hear that there's a security officer, because I think when you create that environment that's outside, even though they bring them inside, 45 minutes for that cocktail hour, you've created an environment where it's okay to go back out to drink. And even though it's dark, if it's a nice summer night, that's a possibility. So really communicating with the venue, working with the venue to make sure that that is not encouraged. If there's security there at every event, I think that is helpful. I think we should move forward this, but I think we definitely have to take the abutters' concerns into consideration and work through anything that comes up immediately.
So, I agree. I think this is an enhancement to the business. But as I said earlier, I am very sensitive to complaints from the residents. They have a legitimate stake in this and legitimate concerns, and there have been some issues in the past. So we will need you to be very aware of that. It sounds like we've talked about various mechanisms. I won't go through those again right now, but to make sure that any issues get dealt with immediately. But just be aware that since we've had a public hearing, since we have had feedback from the public that has said these are issues or have been issues and concerns, that, our board is going to be sensitive to that going forward. So if it becomes a problem, we'll be back here to talk about that. So I would ask you to really make sure that you adhere to and abide by all the things that we talked about here tonight. And hopefully, I forget who said coexist, but I like the word. Hopefully this can coexist and we can have a good outcome for everybody. But that's the way I see it. So could I have a motion to close the public hearing, please?
Motion to close the public hearing?
Seconded?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
500. We're now out of the public hearing. Could I have a motion on the proposal?
Motion to approve request of Estate on Main LLC DBA Avinar for alteration of licensed premises in the rear of 1601 Main Street.
Second.
And could I just offer a friendly amendment to that, inclusive of the various things that we have talked about, the cell phone numbers, the potential for the more arborvitaes and all that. I know you didn't actually say you were going to do that, but it sounded like you did. And then, of course, to the residents, any issues that come up, that know that the Board of Selectmen will be prepared to support that, okay? Okay, you good with that as an amendment?
Agreed.
To the
Seconded.
extent that it was. Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. 500. Bill, thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Appreciate
Chairman.
it.
Thank you, members of
Good
the board.
luck.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and again, please keep us informed if there are any concerns, okay?
Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, next order of business is another public hearing. This one is for a transfer of an all-alcoholic beverage package store license with pledge of inventory and license from Walpole Plaza Liquors, Inc. to Walpole Wine and Spirits Corp., DBA Walpole Wine and Spirits at 669 Main Street. Could I have a motion to open a public hearing, please?
Motion to open the public hearing?
Second?
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 500. We're now in a public hearing. Hello. Please
Mr.
introduce yourself and take us through what your plan is.
My name's Kyle Vieira. I represent Walpole Wine and Spirits Corporation. Like you said, this is here for the transfer of an all-alcoholic beverage license as pledge of inventory and a pledge of the license. Just briefly going over the background here, this is an experienced ownership group that's looking to take over the license. Mr. Dhiren Patel, who is the principal and owner of the business, Walpole Wine and Spirits, he owns another store in the Commonwealth. He's had no violations. He's owned it for several years. Again, his Pranav, who's here, he's going to be his manager. He's going to be in the store 40 to 50 hours a week. Both him and Danelle here are both TIPS certified. The lease is in place. The store is going to be run exactly the same as it is now, same hours, very similar layout. It's going to be substantially the same business. It's just the transfer license from one ownership to another ownership.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. If I assume all the paperwork is in order at this point? Yeah, okay. Any questions from the board? No? Okay. Could I have a motion, Ally?
Motion to approve the
Oh, I'm sorry, we have to close the,
Right.
Is there
Motion-
anyone here from the public who would like to speak? Being none, could I have a motion to close the public hearing, please?
Motion to close the public hearing?
Seconded?
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 500. We're now out of the public hearing. Ally?
Motion to approve the transfer of the all-alcoholic beverage package store license with pledge of inventory and license from Walpole Plaza Liquors Incorporated to Walpole Wine and Spirits Corp., DBA Walpole Wine and Spirits, 669 Main Street.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 500. Thanks, good luck.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, next up, we have an update from the 300th Anniversary Committee. So is Bill here? Hi, Bill. Bill, Judy, others, come on up.
Gonna stand like this. I get nervous when Judy's directly behind me.
Hey, Bill, let me just sort of tee you up here a little bit. So I had asked to have you come in. I know you've been at work on this for a little while now and have a lot of ideas. We're also starting to sock away some money, and we'll put more money into the budget at the upcoming town meeting. And what I wanted to do is start to get into a cadence, because we're now about a year and a half away from when we'll be into these events, and I wanted to set up a sort of maybe a quarterly cadence with the team here to hear what the plan is and get your specific feedback around here are the events we're planning, here are the specifics around those events, and then of course if there's anything that we as a board need to be doing to support this to make sure that this turns into a roaring success. So that's my point in asking you to come in tonight.
Excellent. Well, thank you through you, Mr. Chair. I'm joined by my colleague Judy Conroy and Brendan from the Recreation Department, who is our staff support, our principal staff support for this endeavor. As you know, this body appointed us, a number of us, to a 300th anniversary committee to plan a celebration for the 300th anniversary of the incorporation of the town, which, as my favorite Norwood native, I will ask you, what was that date again, Mr. Chairman?
You're going to put me on the spot. Well, it was 2024 minus 300, right?
Oh, it was December the 10th.
Oh, December 10th. Oh, you wanted the exact date.
I had to.
Gotcha.
It's just,
Thanks, Bill.
excellent. You're most welcome. So we as a body, we began, we have the benefit of a number of our members who have been deeply involved and were on the committee for the 275th, so could bring the historical perspective and a lot of events and things that folks may be expecting, especially old timers. But what we did was we began with a survey. I think many of the people here who took it, almost 450 of our neighbors did. It was widely publicized through the school email list, through the senior center email list. It was physically available at the high school, at the senior center, the library, and the rec committee. And from that, we had a number of ideas and a good barometer of what people were expecting. And as you could probably expect, some of the normal celebratory. People want more fireworks, people want parades, people want community events and days where we can gather, a souped up Walpole Day, things of that nature, came to the fore. So as we took about 2 months to gather that information. We then as a committee sort of tore apart what was possible and looked at that. And we've created, I think one of your questions is, what do we have so far? And at a very high level, we are looking at beginning the celebrations with perhaps a first night event in 2023. A tentative date for that would be December the 30th, which is a Saturday in 2023, and then roll into some spring events, which would include perhaps working with the high school art department for an art and quilt show and things of that nature in the spring, hopefully on the Common. There's also a desire to soup up the 300th year July 3rd celebrations, and Steve Smith, Steve Smith, our former a member of the fire department who's very deeply involved in that, is working closely with the fire department in the town to see what can be done. Obviously, with the space constraints behind you, you can only make it so much bigger or longer, so we're cognizant of that. And it really sort of ramps up in the fall. We're looking at a very large, hopefully the largest parade our community has ever seen, on October the 5th, rolling into a country-style fair in the same footprint, we hope, as Walpole Day. On November the 2nd, we hope to do a gala, as we have in the past at Lake Pearl, as we have in the past on the 275th and 250th. We have that location booked, and then there will be other kind of events that the community as a whole will bring forward. It is also the 100th anniversary of the Walpole Footlighters that year. Our friends on the Historical Commission have a number of projects ongoing, and there's a number of opportunities we hope to be able to empower other community groups to do things to celebrate our 300 years here and look to the future and the past. And we want to help them with that, but we're hoping that the things I just mentioned will be the sort of linchpins and the bulwark with which the celebration will be built off of. We're also, so how we're attacking this, again, as I said, we have really tremendous staff support in Brendan at the rec department, as well as Lauren Antonetti. Our monthly meetings, Pat Shield, your assistant town manager, comes in and gives us sort of updates on the purchasing side and things of that nature. And we're now in a period where we're building out a budget. If I were to ask you, again, not to pick on Ord again, but to look at their 4th of July parade, that costs roughly $50,000 just to get the Colonial Boys and some of the more standard acts that would be in a parade like that there on the 3rd of July. We're hoping that it will be slightly less, not in a really parade-saturated time of year in October, but we're in a position now where we're really trying to budget out and cost out. And that's where, obviously, this board, the Finance Committee, the Capital Budget Committee have been kind to allocate $50,000 for us already, another $150,000 hopefully at town meeting this October. Representative Phillips attempted to get us a $100,000 earmark. It died in the economic development bill. He's got 2 more years, and he's very committed to working with Rob Rogers and the other members of the delegation towards that as well. And that's a pretty standard state earmark that you see for most communities as they get to that period. So we're really looking at that. So that's where we are with fundraising. We're also hoping to reach out to the usual suspects and some of the larger financial institutions. But as a committee, we've talked a lot about how we're tremendously grateful for the generosity of this, of the town side of government in this. And one of our members, Janice Young, has kind of spoken at length at our meetings about how much more support we have received from the town at this stage of the game as compared to her experience 25 years ago, and how closely we've been collaborating, which is great. We've already had a really productive meeting with Chief Bailey and Officer White about what are the better and worse lengths of a parade, let's say, and what are the logistical concerns about that, which then informs how we go out and get acts, which in turn informs how much those are going to cost. So we're very grateful. Jim has been tremendous. I think he doesn't want to be outdone by some of our neighbors, just as we don't. So I think we're all rowing in the same direction in that. So that's basically where we are. We hope to continue to fill out some our event calendar. We also hope to, in 2023, go and have some merchandising, get some nice T-shirts and things like that with some local partners. But we have, by looking at a few of our neighbor towns who've done this, we are also cognizant of the fact that that doesn't really generate a tremendous amount towards it's the municipal allocation and perhaps some large donations. And we talk a lot. We have great folks, Beth Pellick, Katie Turco-Beatty, who are also involved in other organizations in town. We hit a lot of the same organizations and people up for many different areas. So we're trying to be as frugal and careful as we can in our planning.
Good. Well, that was really helpful, Bill, and I appreciate you taking us through that. And it's good to hear that you've got the basic framework of what you're trying to get done in place, and it's now, of course, a matter of working through the details. And I know that's going to require the involvement of a lot of people, and that can be one of the key things to success of these programs is getting the right number of people to own the detail work. So, we want to make sure we're helping you with that. I have a couple of just quick questions that have been on my mind when I think about how we are advertising some of this stuff to make sure that all of the events that you ultimately execute on, go as big as they can. So are you thinking about things like a banner in the downtown? I think Medfield always has one down in the downtown across the way, and that says, Walpole's 300th and, some of the key dates or something like that. Have you thought about any of those kinds of things?
Actually, the answer would be all of the above. We're lucky that we're working with Rec, who has the built-in infrastructure with their community bulletins and things of that nature. And but again, Mr. Hegler and Ms. Abady, some of our colleagues on the committee, we talk a lot about making sure that the information, and we sort of did a trial run with this as far as the survey goes. It disseminates to the community through sort of all possible means. So we're going to probably look at things like a big board on an easel at the senior center that has the calendar of events, and using the school community announcements and using the Rex community announcements, and maybe a big sign downtown or banners like that. And as we get closer to it, I think we're really trying to flesh out the needs of each event. And after we finish the budgeting process, as you say, we're really going to be looking at bringing more people in who are not necessarily on the committee, but like if you're going to run a parade, you're going to need a tremendous amount of volunteers.
That's a big one.
Mr. Hegler the Elder gave us his book from the 250 parade.
Good.
And they had literally divisions down all of the side streets of the high school. And I think there was about 50 or 75 volunteers. That's before police details, which will also be an expense we'll need to incur, similar to that on the 3rd of July. So we're going to need a lot of folks, but we want to make sure we have a product and an opportunity for people to get involved that's going to be respectful of their time and the like, knowing that the people who volunteer, who are sitting here today, who are watching at home, do a lot of other things. So we want to make sure that the asks are very tight, and we can take people's help and give them specific tasks and specific opportunities to get involved when the time comes.
Great. The other point I was going to ask is exactly what you just said, that Ted had shared some of that stuff with us a year ago or so. In fact, Teddy has been the sort of impetus for getting this thing rolling, and I wanted to make sure you had seen what he had. Sounds like you have that.
We get a report every month.
Yeah, okay, all right, good. Well,
there's also a time capsule in the front yard back here somewhere.
That's
Mr.
right.
Powers has forgotten exactly where it is.
It's
but
at the front of the old town hall.
We think it's back here.
If you go to the front of the old town hall, look to the right, there's a tablet right in there that says it's right there, so.
But there's one back there too. So this, again,
All right.
these are things we have to plan and think about.
But that's
get a metal
again, that's a
detector.
very cool thing that we.
It is.
Yeah.
We're hoping, especially for the young people in the community.
Yeah.
Putting stuff in a time capsule.
Yeah.
For when they're old.
Awesome.
To see. That would be very good.
Well, let me open it up to the board for questions or comments.
Judy is in the time capsule, so it's not necessarily old people. We just want to.
Why are we calling it a time capsule? Anybody from the board who'd like to ask Bill a question?
I'm just curious if I can. It sounds to me like we're at the epicenter where we stand right now, of where all these fireworks and parades and events. I mean, we're talking Stonefield, and this is sort of like where Walpole Day usually takes place. I know Main Street Live, we kind of take over some of the common. But is that your thought? Is this that all these events are probably mostly centered where we're standing now?
That's an interesting question. Not necessarily. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We just want to have a number of high-value events that can allow for as many people as possible to participate. As we talked about the country fair, we could conceivably do it at the Aggie because they got the animals up there already, and the 250th parade went from the high school to the Aggie. It was a 2 1/3 mile parade. Hopefully the street will be done by then. So I don't think all these events necessarily have to be centralized.
Yeah.
There's other opportunities. We have begun to explore the idea of perhaps on top of the gala doing some sort of like perhaps senior prom at maybe the old Bernardi's Avenir, something like that for older folks at a lower cost than say what the gala would be. That's something we're kind of looking into, but is sort of in a second tier. We're also interested in working with other groups and things, but like we hope that the first day hike will be the 300th anniversary of the town's first day hike.
Sure, yeah, you mentioned the first night, so I was going to ask you, can you think of anything that might happen the next day?
Yeah,
while
exactly.
everyone's
I was
recovering?
teeing you up.
Yeah,
I knew
first
what
day
you were
hike,
doing.
Sure.
Excellent.
That's good, that's great, sounds good.
Anyone else?
I think all the events, they sound great. I mean, I was trying to write down the timeline, so it seems like we're kind of doing an event almost a month leading up to it. So I look forward to see what you guys come up with.
It's gonna be good.
Great. Well, Bill, thank you for coming in. I think this is a really important thing for us to do, and I think the fact that we're, putting aside some significant funding to support this, put some, oomph behind that. We don't celebrate enough in my mind, and when you come to something like the 300th, this is a biggie.
Yep.
And it's one that needs to be celebrated and celebrated big, and I'm glad we're doing this, and I really appreciate your efforts and the rest of you. And please let us know if there's anything that we can be doing as a board to help make this thing just be a booming success.
It'll
Okay?
be great, we hope.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Judy. All right, our next discussion is on ARPA Economic Development Requests. Hi, Sarah, if you could come up to the mic. We have been working on ARPA for months now at this point, and have had a number of organizations come in once, twice, in some cases 3 times. I know Destination Downtown has been working with Pat DeShanes and our Economic Development Group, and has some really interesting ideas that they want to put forth. You were in front of us, I don't know, several meetings ago, and we wanted to have you come back tonight and start to disposition some of these things so that we can actually get moving on it. I would just remind everybody that the ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan Act, one of the key elements of that is economic development. And so what you're suggesting and bringing forth is important and relevant in a context of ARPA. And I think worthy of, votes tonight on at least a couple of your proposals so that we can get those things moving. So, Sarah, if I could take them a little out of order, because I think a couple of them are rather straightforward, and I'd like to hit the wayfinding and the commons ideas first, and then do the culture house. Okay?
Sure.
Great. Thank you.
So you want me to just kind of introduce it?
Yeah, just
the
hit
concepts
them
and-
lightly, especially those first 2. I think they're pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we at Destination Downtown, our mission is to, revitalize downtown Walpole by creating a welcoming environment where people want to spend their time. So to do that, there's lots of things that we've done and that we'd like to continue to do. One of them is hold community events, and we've held a couple on the town common, and it's just a great asset to downtown to have that green space, to have the town provided new picnic tables and everything, but we're proposing adding some additional amenities to really kind of expand the use of the town common. One is to add public Wi-Fi, which I think would just be so great. It is an economic development issue, right? People could, go to the businesses, grab a lunch, sit outside, use the public Wi-Fi, get some work done. It's an attraction to the area. Another thing is to add some sound, like a sound system to the town common. We've had a couple events where we had live music, where we had musicians play from the gazebo. We use the gazebo as our porch during Porch Fest. And each time we do that, getting the sound is always kind of an issue. So if that were kind of taken care of, it would be a lot easier to plan these kind of events. It would be a lot easier for other community groups to come in and, request use of that town property and to hold events for the community. A sound system could also be used, let's say, during the holiday time to create a festive and, ambient music as people are shopping and spending their holiday dollars and, enjoying a community area. So that's kind of and then we could also we're also proposing maybe adding some pedestrian improvement, like for the pedestrian crossing. I know back when Ashley Clark was here, she proposed adding some crossings with maybe some colorful paint or whatever, but anything that we can do to help people feel safe, to help people feel, that it's a welcome environment and that they can get from point A to point B and they can take their kids and things will be good. That's going to help the whole downtown area. So those are kind of three things with the town common. And the wayfinding program, Pat and the town have already started some of that, but that's been identified in study after study after study that, people need help finding where they're going. Even people who have lived in Walpole for years kind of don't know that there's parking here, and I mean, it took me a while. So these kind of wayfinding to really promote what we have downtown and help people easily find their way, to put signage at various decision points as people enter the town, like, train station this way, town center this way, public parking here. So that anything that helps to make it easy and welcoming for our visitors and for our residents is, gonna help the downtown and to help the community really utilize the asset that we have.
So on both of those, I think those are all really strong, good ideas. I would say that you gave us a bunch of literature. Obviously, you didn't go through that tonight, and nor should you, but for example, you gave us a lot of literature on some of the other towns and the wayfinding that they've done and the way the signs look and all that, and they're really good-looking signs, and they're very, very helpful. So I think that's a really good idea. I totally love the music idea, too. And as you look into this, the Common is a great place to start, but I do also wonder about sort of down Main Street and maybe a little bit on 27, especially given the new residential building that'll be going up in the Gilmore site, and knowing how those developers are very interested in it and their design has integrated with the community. So I think there's an opportunity there as well. So I think those two are both really strong, solid ideas. Let me open it up to the rest of the board. Questions or comments? Mark?
Sure, I like wayfinding a lot. I think we were in Hudson over the weekend and there were lots of signs. They weren't big ones, little ones, but the little blue sign that said parking in. So as we went from place to place, we always found a parking spot. And they did have some other wayfinding signs which were nice, sort of sending you to the right part of town. So I really like that idea. I do like Wi-Fi. I love benches in the downtown area. And even if we think, you were talking about going out from the downtown, if you really want people to walk, especially older people or people with little kids, benches are really great. And we've got some benches scattered around, but I think if we took a look on each of the streets that feed downtown, maybe we could add another bench here and another bench there, just make it sort of a walking center. You did mention crosswalks. Hudson had very bold, colorful crosswalks, which it was really nice as a pedestrian when we were crossing the street.
Right.
Because the drivers noticed them right away. So anything we can do to encourage people to be downtown, have a place to sit, Wi-Fi, music is good. I do remember years ago, I don't remember who recommended it, but they wanted chocolate chip cookie smells in the downtown. Which, if you remember, if you go down to, in Boston, there's some places where they blow the smell out into the sidewalks that you stop at. I'm just kidding about the cookie smell, but there are places that do that. So bakery shops blow the smell onto the sidewalk. So I really like this idea, and I'm willing to support it. So.
Yeah, so I agree with Mark on all those items, so I won't repeat everything that he said, and certainly we could do worse than another town as an example than Hudson. They've done a lot of really great things, obviously, and we've all known and heard about that. My question, I guess, is more just about maybe some of the dollar figures that we're talking about for town common improved amenities and the wayfinding and branding, and having talked about some of the other funds that we've set aside, and I know that Patrick is here now. So the values that we might be considering tonight, is that going to augment what we've already set aside, or how does that work?
I'm looking at it as augmenting what we've already set aside, not as part of.
Okay.
But you raise a very interesting point, because we have allocated some money for the old town hall, and we're going to talk about Culture House in just a minute. But regardless, the old town hall, I think, plays an important part in the economic development scenario within the downtown. And so as we think about these things all intersect, right? They're not standalones, but as you think about all of these activities, we need to think of them holistically and figure out the way to leverage everything that we're doing everywhere in the best way possible. But to answer your question, I see it as augmenting what we've already allocated.
All right, I think public Wi-Fi on the Common is huge. Mark mentioned it, and that one I am going to repeat. With the higher density housing downtown now, there's more people around, and I notice more people utilizing the Common than I ever have in the past 10 years. So I think that's a big one. And then also talking about the branding and wayfinding, I would echo what Jim said in terms of how it's done. And I think the packages that you had included in the materials you gave us were really excellent. And I've seen some towns do it where it was really awful. And like,
Agree.
I mean, without naming any towns, just like so simple. And I know we want to keep it simple because you want people to read it and to notice it, but like so simple, it was almost like, oh my gosh, it's like a first grade, classroom or something. So I really want to impress upon you that, I think I'm very much in favor of setting aside this money so that we can do it right, and we can make it really a positive thing that people will notice. So thank you.
Glenn?
Sure, yeah, it all sounds very positive. I don't have to add to that. I have a question about the process, maybe for Jim. So if we ask for 50,000 for town common amenities and 50,000 for wayfinding, but it turns out we want to use 60 and 40, I mean, is it easy enough, or do we have to reapply at that point?
You have to go back to them and ask them to provide more money.
Okay, all right, no, I'm just wondering, I mean, it sounds like, Jim, you mentioned, well, maybe we have the speaker system that extends to 27, and so maybe, and this would be a question for Patrick too, but maybe we don't know the answer right now, but, I mean, it sounds like splitting it down the middle is probably the way to go, and if it turns out that more money is needed for one or the other, then we'll just have to adapt.
Well, we could always add regular capital requests
That's
too.
true.
We're not,
Yeah.
we talk about ARPA, but we have other funding sources, and economic development is one of the things I think we all consider is very important. So I think we'd figure that out. I think the bottom line is we don't actually know how much it will cost to do some of these things. So to some extent, how far you go with, the music idea will be bounded by, for $23,000 you can do this, right? And we'll figure that out as we get a little deeper into it, so.
And same with, if turns out that we like the wayfinding and we only needed 40,000 for Walpole because we've already allocated some money that we've already spent, and it's sort of, adding to that, supplementing that, then we could go over to East Walpole and South Walpole, and perhaps we could just expand the wayfinding.
Absolutely.
So I don't think we'll actually have an issue spending it, but I wanted to bring that up.
I
so,
agree.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Okay.
Glenn.
Sure.
Ally?
Thank you. A lot of great points brought up. We're talking about the town common. I think the Wi-Fi, the speakers are all going to be great additions to it. The other place I'm kind of thinking about is expanding over where our farmers market is, which is a really nice green space that's underutilized, and with 27 being built up, I think it's important. The walkways, the newly paved back, public parking lot. I'm sure it's already planned out, but as we think about walkways and how to direct people and how to get people connected from one green space to another green space, I think a lot of people utilize the local restaurants kind of on this end of downtown and maybe head towards that farmers market green space area versus heading back up to the common. But I support, setting aside some ARPA funds for these projects.
Great. So.
Can I just add just
Sure,
one
go ahead,
thing?
Sarah.
So if you do look to expand beyond, the town common down Main Street or 27 and are thinking about benches, I would also encourage you to think about lighting. So benches and lighting, these are like critical elements to help create that safe and welcoming environment.
So what I think will happen process-wise here, and correct me if you have a different view, but we've got sort of a broad framework of things, and we're going to set aside some money, and then the work needs to happen to say, okay, we're going to now do A and B and C and D, and here's what it's really going to cost, and that will then dictate a lot of what we do. Again, I think if there are things that don't get done through the allocation of the ARPA funds, that doesn't mean they can't get done through other capital requests. And this could be a multi-year thing, and again, all with an eye toward improving economic activity within downtown and beyond. So it falls nicely within all the things that you're trying to accomplish, what we're trying to accomplish, and of course what the business is trying to accomplish. So I think we're good there, but it's going to now be a matter of really laying it out and saying, okay, here's the specific things. Okay.
Yeah,
And
and if we did want to do, a branding, I think that's one thing that, I think Pat has mentioned that we don't quite have the capacity in-house, but a lot of like the sign manufacturing, installation, things like that, like, we can use DPW and other town,
Yeah, to the
Yeah.
extent that we can, we should.
yeah.
But if it's gonna require some specific expertise, then I wouldn't try and do the square peg round hole thing. I would do it the right way.
Right.
Doing it right matters.
And to get a good image that we can all
Yeah,
be proud of.
exactly, yeah.
Yes.
So let's take them one at a time. So let's do the common one first. So the dollar amount for the common that you're looking for is,
I mean, I'm here advocating for
Yeah,
the
right.
town to spend. I think we can do quite a bit
Mm-hmm.
with, 50,000.
50,000. That's what I think too, and that's what you've sort of put forth. So I think that's a good starting point. Again, my view is that it's not the ending point. We'll continue to react as the cases come up. So, could I have a motion for the common project idea?
Motion to authorize the town administrator and finance director to submit a request to the county commissioners to use ARPA funds that are being held by the commissioner to fund the following areas of town common improved amenities in the amount of $50,000.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
500. Let's do the second one, which is the wayfinding. And I think also we're saying 50,000? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Motion to authorize the town administrator and finance director to submit a request to the county commissioners to use ARPA funds that are being held by the commissioner to fund the following items of comprehensive wayfinding and branding in the amount of $50,000.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
500. Good. So let's move on now to the third one, which was actually your top priority, which is the Culture House pop-up. Could you just take us through that whole concept and then let's have some dialogue around that?
Okay. So Culture House is an idea, and we've talked to a consultant called Culture House. It was an organization formed, I think, in 2017. And their idea is to help communities orchestrate a temporary pop-up of an arts and culture center. So they have a whole, program. They've done it in several communities, most recently in Salem. They've done it in Peabody. They've done several around Boston. And the idea is to offer free and diverse programming to the community. And there's a process that they go through, and it starts with community engagement. So it starts with, talking to community members, kind of assessing, what is needed, what would the community enjoy, what is missing, what would they like to enhance, and then developing a program to offer that programming. And so we're proposing to use the Old Town Hall because, it's just, we think, a magnificent structure and, like the heart and soul of downtown, and currently we feel it's being underutilized. It is being utilized, and so we're respectful of that, and we hope to, if we can do this, we hope to work with the town on, which areas we could designate as a culture house. But it would be a great location, a central location for the community to come and enjoy our arts and culture. In addition to the programming, they also typically do like kind of elements of play outside. So like in the front lawn, that there would be, just to create a vibrant atmosphere. People walk by, oh, what's this? People are playing, people are, doing stuff. There's people going into town hall for, different programming. And the kind of programming is kind of up to the town within budget constraints, and how much programming is also kind of something that we can decide as we go through. Can we do, 2 days a week of programming, or can we do 3? Is it only 1? It's kind of up to the community to decide what to offer and how much to offer. Some things that past communities have done, they've done like art shows, they've done small musical performance, book clubs, like a teen drop-in center, a senior citizen gathering, a cooking demonstration. I mean, there's a lot that could be done, and it would really bring people downtown and give them something to do, and give, give the businesses help to bring those people downtown. And I don't want to talk too much, but I did reach out to the Culture House about the project in Salem because it was the most recent one. And I forgot to mention, so also a part of this program is the Culture House will prepare and present an impact report to kind of let the community know, what were the lessons learned, what kind of feedback did they get, when were the most busy times, quite a bit. So just real quickly, in Salem, so Salem had a 3-month pop-up from April to June of this year, 2022. They had a total of 10,400 visitors. Average number of visitors per day was like 200. The busiest time of the day was between 7 and 8 p.m. They hosted 51 total events, and 54% of the events had Salem-based artists, creatives, and organizations. And so, and I was thinking when you were talking about the 300 year, like, we want things and events for Walpole residents, but we also want to expand beyond, right? I mean, we want downtown Walpole to be a destination for area communities as well. So this would be something, if I were in a neighboring town, I might, come and enjoy, and the 300-year celebrations. I mean, I think it's great to think beyond Walpole, that we can be a regional destination as well.
All right, I'm going to open up to the board. Glenn?
Can I just chime in on this real quick? The other ideas are great. I mean, I'm a big supporter of downtown Walpole. So I think we did a good thing tonight with the 50 and the 50,000 for the common and the comprehensive wayfinding. I read this proposal, and I guess the thing that stands out to me is that it's different than all the other projects that we've approved with APA, is that it's temporary in nature. And I understand it's designed that way. But what are we going to be left with at the end of 4 months? I think the 20,000 will get us, probably be supplemented by grants, I think. Is that correct? So the proposal has it at 50,000 for 4 months. If we end up at 40,000, I think we can fine tune that, and perhaps it ends up being 3 months. But I guess my concern is that, and I was looking at the proposal, the breakdown was like $7,000 for a build out. So I think most of the money is going to go toward like marketing and bringing people in and sort of like, getting the community interested in the space. And really just a few $1,000s is going to go toward making any changes. And for those of us who have been at Old Town Hall, I think it's a long way from being ready for prime time. It's used by the EMS right now. There's some old police department offices. If you go up, you can't actually go upstairs if you're a member of the public. It probably wouldn't be safe to do so. I think we're targeting maybe the first floor as the gathering spot. So, I mean, it's used by the health department for flu vaccines. I just don't know where we'll be at the end of, I don't know that Old Town House will be any better at the end of 4 months. It'll certainly be more well-known, and people will have come to visit, and hopefully we can get hundreds of people to sort of participate. I just, I think for Cambridge and Somerville, it probably worked really well. And for the Old Town Hall, it's only $20,000, but I just feel like for something not indelible, something, sort of temporary, again, I appreciate you bringing the idea forward. I love the Old Town Hall. It's not that I want to ignore it. I think it needs to be highlighted. Perhaps this isn't the best way. That's just my opinion, and I'm just one person. So
one of the things. Go ahead, Sarah, if you want.
So, so to respond to that, I would just say two things, and that one. Part of the mission of a culture house is to have a community gathering space, right? Like a living room for the community. And I think especially post-COVID, where a lot of people felt isolated, they were away from their community, and we're craving to get back to community and to spend time together with friends and community and make new friends. And so there's been studies where communities feel, when individuals feel connected to their community, they are more resilient to kind of weather the storm for future crises, be they global pandemic or individual kind of crises. So I would offer that. And then as far as what are you going to get, I mean, I think I'd like to look at it as like an investment in what could be, right? And so, and kind of we can use this opportunity. We can take the community space that we're creating and use it as kind of marketing to potential investors of Town Hall for, you know, kind of what could be, and to really show people instead of just tell people like, well, if you knock down this wall and you put some paint here, it could be great. Like, if we can show people using the space, being there in community, really enjoying what could be, I think that would be a great marketing tool.
It's a great goal, and I agree with the goal. I mean, you and I are on the same side as far as that's concerned. I had an idea that, you know, when we have the Santa Parade in December, should open up the old town hall and invite people in and give tours, and the Civil War plaques that are hanging on the walls, and have maybe the Historical Society participate, and sort of, you know, I agree that the goal is a good one, and I think we should work toward that. I feel like we could maybe do it for less than $50,000, like, is I guess what I was getting at. But anyways, I appreciate you bringing the idea forward.
Okay.
Other points of view, Ben?
Sure, yeah. I love this idea, and, you know, looking through the pictures and all the information that you gave us in the proposal, I think that it's a great thing. I think talking about highlighting the town hall, old town hall, for other uses and for potential developers, we've spent a lot of time on this board and in these meetings talking about the changes that need to be made to that building, and we've allotted a substantial amount of money thus far to doing that, and that's all in the works. And so my only concern here is that we don't want to jump the gun and show people the town hall that we don't want to quite show them quite yet, you know, because we are putting a lot of money into it. And I think that this program can highlight exactly the types of things we want to. I haven't completely resolved this in my mind, you know, obviously from how I'm explaining it, but, you know, is it beneficial for us to say, okay, 6 months from now, once we've done some of these other reviews, structural analyses, these things, maybe we can knock down a couple walls, and that would completely transform our ability to then host this type of an event, right? And so do we want to pull the trigger on it now and do it now and hope that it goes well, or can we say, well, 6 months from now, we know that we'll have a better space, or we'll be able to prepare that space that will then put it in a better light, and then the program you're talking about can kind of just, you know, embellish that further, right? And so it's just gains on gains. That's where I'm coming from on this, and, you know, having been in that space, and I know that you've been in that space, and a lot of folks have, it's not great currently. And I know that, you know, $7,000, $10,000 will go a long way towards making it nicer, making it more comfortable for people to come down to. But I really want to continue to be diligent in making sure that when we do showcase it for the public, showcase it for developers, that we're putting ourselves in a position to be as successful as possible. And I don't think that right now is that time. But I don't want to table it too long either. I don't want to say, yeah, we'll talk about it in 6 months, and then 2 years from now we haven't done it. So I'm very, very supportive of the idea, but I'd like to understand a little bit more about that building and some of the investigations that are ongoing right now before we commit any of the ARPA funds to it. And I know we've said tonight too that any of these initiatives that are worthwhile can always be done through capital requests or other means. And I'd be more than willing to come back to that as well. So.
Yes, so just on that, I mean, when it happens is yet to be decided, but I think ideally to utilize some of the summer months, or at least, you know, a month in the summer. So that's several months away still. Okay. And then there's the lead up time that when the community does like community engagement. So even if, you know, the town agrees tonight, which maybe it will or maybe it won't, like, we're not ready to like open up town hall. So it will be, you know, 9 months out perhaps.
I see.
And so
Okay.
if we could utilize some improvements to town hall, I totally agree, and be able to better showcase what it could be, I would be for that.
Okay. Ally?
Yeah, thank you. I absolutely support the idea of having a pop-up culture and kind of reiterating some of the same comments that Ben and Glenn have made. I think there definitely are some roadblocks. I've been in the town hall and toured it this summer, and although it is a beautiful building and I think it would be wonderful for the community to be able to come see it, I do have some safety concerns, just an overall of how the community could access the building. It is kind of choppy and closed off, and access points to the building even from the front and from the back. What space would be utilized? How many people? I think it would be fabulous. I think we need to talk some more and be kind of more comprehensive with, you know, say Don Anderson and our building department, who maybe would be helping make some of those improvements. I think it is a really good idea, and I think it could showcase the town hall in a great way of some possible uses. But I think there's still a lot to kind of talk through and work through.
Sally? Mark?
So, I actually really like the idea of Culture House. I like Old Town Hall a lot less as the location. You know, I think our rec department does a great job. One of the problems that I perceive that they have is that we actually want them to break even on pretty much every program. So they tend not to try too many new things that are unfunded just because they don't have a budget for that. So I love the idea of doing something like a Culture House, trying some new ideas, see if we can draw in different groups of people, or different age groups that we don't normally get, and all those kind of things. I think ultimately, if Culture House is a success, right now I'm separating it from Town Hall.
Okay.
I think it would probably become a rec program in some fashion that we would need to fund. Hey, you have this many dollars a year to do more new programs that are unfunded or only partially funded. So again, that's just how I'm thinking about it. I do worry about Old Town Hall. Like, is the front door the way you come in or the back door? Neither is good.
Yeah,
What you really want is people to come from the sidewalk up where the steps used to be,
yeah.
through the front door. So
Those are
I
gone,
just,
yeah.
I also worry about the physical building, and if we're, you know, is Culture House something that can stand on its own? I think it can, and I would support it. I wouldn't want to try to push it into a space that may not make it successful. Maybe down the road it would be. So that's sort of how I'm thinking about it. I like the Culture House idea. I'd love to support it. I'd love to see some new ideas and try them out. And I would always be thinking, if the concept works, we'd probably want to roll it in somehow to the rec department with some additional funding. Maybe every year they can try a few new things. So again,
What
just my thought.
about Blackburn Hall?
We have lots of places that are available. Blackburn Hall, the upstairs and the downstairs. You know, for some activities, the Council on Aging is a beautiful space. It's very underutilized at night. So if you're looking for, so I think we have others, if we like the Culture House concept.
Yeah,
I think we have other locations.
okay.
I do like the idea that eventually you'd like it right downtown would be nice. You know, you go have pizza with your family and walk across the street to something, but you know, you can walk over to Blackburn Hall or whatever. So I'm just sort of thinking of it as, can we separate the two issues? If Town Hall's not ready, and I don't think it's ready unless Jim, you think it's ready, okay. I haven't been in there in a while, but when I was
trying
in
to
there,
help
it was
you
like,
guys.
oh boy, we have a lot of work to do here.
Yeah.
Just getting into the building, like,
Yeah,
you know, you throw out some numbers, if 100 people showed up, how would you really get them in and out of that building? And, you know, so I think we have a little work to do in the building before. But I do like the Culture House idea, and I would be supportive of the concept, and we'd sort of have to figure out, you know, where would it physically be? And to me, it's more of it's a pop-up. People could come, you're trying new things. It would be drawing people downtown for the most part, which I think is a good thing. And I do agree, it's probably not a winter activity. It's a spring, summer, fall kind of a thing, so.
Yeah.
So that's what I think.
Good, okay. And here's what I think, and you and I talked about this a bit this morning. So I like the idea. Is Town Hall the right place? I don't know. Is Town Hall going to be the right place for anything? I don't know. We have a lot of work going on right now, as we discussed. By the way, the name of that consulting group, which I couldn't remember this morning, was Peregrine, is the name of the group. I think it would be smart to have the Peregrine people talk to you, Sarah, and others in Destination Downtown, and Patrick, and sort of include the idea of Culture House pop-up into that whole town hall marketing and branding equation that we're working on there. And the reason for that is because at some point, we're gonna wanna market the town hall. Is it a lease? Is it a buy? Do we keep it? Do we sell it? Do we do this? Do we do that? Well, how much investment? All these things that we've been talking about. But use cases are gonna be important. And learnings from use cases will be important. So as we roll forward, we know we have many months of work that has to happen in the town hall before it's even, habitable in any sense. That will be going on. We've got the Peregrine work going on. We could easily get into next summer and perhaps the place is ready to do some limited pop-ups, or maybe we do them somewhere else. And one of the elements of the program that, I forget, it's 4 or 5 phases that you describe. One of them is this whole evidence-based evaluation on the back end. You give us some facts and figures from Salem, for example. We would have something similar to that, coming out of a prototype, if you will, of, Culture House. So we could learn a lot about that. That all by itself could factor into, an investor decision, because depending on what that investor wanted to do, maybe they use the building 100%, maybe they don't, right? These other elements could then factor in, okay? So I think a couple things that could come out of tonight are this. I don't think we're ready to take a vote on the funding. I think that's pretty clear from the board, and I don't think that's unexpected, and that's fine. I do think it would be helpful for us to have Culture House come in and talk to us at some point in the future, several meetings down the road. We could have them come in, and let's actually, talk about what they've experienced in other places in a more detailed fashion, and try to incorporate some of that thinking into the work that Peregrine is doing. And then there's the work Peregrine is doing, and to make sure that there is that connectivity with you, with the Economic Development Committee. Patrick, obviously, you're driving all of that with the rec people, and making sure that we fully utilize everything that the Peregrine people are doing. I think in the end, and I have no basis for this right now except my own walking through the town hall, it's gonna take millions of dollars to fix the town hall up. And I think we all should be bracing ourselves for that reality. And I don't know what we're going to decide as we start to get to that reality, given other things that we've got going on. But process is our path forward here. You gotta have good process. Let's just keep going the path we've said we're gonna go down, but make sure that we get better involvement with your group, with Peregrine. And then let's have Culture House come in and talk to us so that we can, regardless of location, we can start to wrap our minds around the concept. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think if somehow we used a different space, hopefully downtown, because that's what we want, but
Right.
we can still maybe utilize some of those lessons learned
Sure.
with town hall.
Sure.
Yeah. We brought X number of people downtown, it helped economic development, these are the programming that the community wanted. And so we can still use some of those lessons learned to protect prospective
Totally
town hall
agree.
investors.
Yeah. Well, Sarah, thank you very much for continuing to push this and drive this and educate us. And, we look forward to continuing to do that as we go forward.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah. Okay, next on the agenda is open forum. Is there anyone here who would like to speak at open forum? Doesn't look like it, so we'll move on. On to new business. Jim, we've got a award bid contract for cold water meters. Could you just take us through that quickly?
Sure. Paperwork here. So back on September 8th, we received 2 bids for the cold water meters. Superintendent Gustafson looked over the bids and recommends that we award contract bid number 2023-01 to Stiles Company with the low bid of $90,245.40.
Any questions for Jim?
Why is it called a cold water meter?
That's why I have Rick here.
Yeah. As opposed
to a water meter or a hot water meter.
There is a difference, believe it or not, there is a difference.
Okay.
Yeah, you typically don't meter hot water, but they do make specialty meters for hot water applications.
Okay, thanks.
Good. Good to know. Any other questions or comments? Ally?
Motion to award bid contract number 2023-01 cold water meters to Stiles Company Incorporated.
Seconded.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
500. Okay, let's continue with new business. Ally, I'm just going to turn it over to you at this point.
Very good. Motion to approve request of Tamara Russo to hold a block party with DJ on Alma Road, October 1st, 2022, from 2 to 9 p.m.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 500.
Motion to approve request of Denise Haberhill to hold a block party with DJ on Thornell Ave, October 2nd, 2022, from 12 to 4 p.m.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 500.
Motion to approve request of Michelle Fellini to hold a block party with live music on Clapp Street, October 29th, 2022, from 4 to 8 p.m.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 500.
Motion to approve request of Norfolk Country Agricultural High School to use the Old Fisher Ball Field on October 2nd, 2022, for parking as part of their open house.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
500.
Motion to approve request of Frank Musher for a one-day all-alcoholic beverage license on October 1st, 2022, from 6 to 10 p.m. at 137 Stone Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
500.
Motion to approve request of Emily Whitney and Albert Napoli for one-day wine and malt beverage license on October 22nd, 2022, from 12 to 5 p.m. on the Town Common as part of Uncommon Art on the Common event.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
500.
Motion to approve request of Jimmy Henry to hold the Drumstick Dash 5K on November 28th, 2022, beginning at 10 a.m. in the Fisher School area.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. 500.
Motion to accept with gratitude the following donations: COA pool players for COA gifts, Karen and Mark Lingrier to COA gifts, Tyler Frogerin to Hometown Hero Banner Program.
Second with gratitude.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
500.
Motion to approve the minutes of August 23rd and September 13th, 2022, is presented in our packet.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 500. Jim, Town Administrator's
Sure,
report.
just a few items here. So, once again, town meeting, we're ready to go on October 17th. The warrant is now in the mail. I believe it's at the post office, so that should be delivered to residents very soon. Packets are due into our office towards the end of this week. Basically, we already have everything already in. Select board schedule for October and November. At the last meeting, we talked about having a meeting on 11/8, and after talking to Aoife about that to set the rate hearing, we can't hold it on 11/8 because it's the federal election day, and there's a law preventing us from voting on anything that day. So Jim and I spoke today. We agreed, let's schedule a meeting on the 15th so we could at least, Dennis can advertise their rate setting. So tentatively, we'll have a meeting set for 11/8, 11/15, and 11/22, just for now, and figure out what the agendas look like as we can always cancel a meeting if necessary, so you're good with that?
I'm totally good with that, and even if there's only one thing on the agenda so that we can handle Dennis's business, we'll do that.
Yeah, and if we can squeeze more in
Yeah.
there, we don't have to meet Thanksgiving
Yeah.
week, all the better.
There you go, right.
And last item, Harvest Fest. Brendan's been working hard with the rec committee and the rec department on scheduling Harvest Fest, which is set to take place on Saturday, this coming Saturday, from 11 to 2, right and back on Stone Field. Should be a good event, so be there if you can. That's it.
Awesome. Any questions for Jim? Comments? Motion to adjourn?
Seconded.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
500. We're now adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Thank you to Walpole Media for hosting us tonight. Thanks.